And hi everyone, and welcome to Connected Learning TV. This is the final webinar in a month-long series titled Cities of Learning 2014, Unique Personalized Pathways to Success. I'm John Baraloni, the Community Manager for the Connected Learning Alliance, and I'll be your host for today. And throughout this month, we've been getting some inside early looks at 4 major cities' City of Learning programs. And for those of you who might be hearing about Cities of Learning for the very first time, it's part of this nationwide movement to leverage community and government resources to create links between in-school and out-of-school learning throughout the summer and also beyond the summer. And the focus of this program is to engage cities to open doors across neighborhoods to ensure that all youth have access to creative and academic opportunities in libraries, museums, parks, and other community institutions. And Cities of Learning also makes use of digital badges. And for those of you in the community who are already close to the work with Mozilla and the Open Badges work that they're doing, it's a tool that can help document and capture learning that's happening wherever it's acquired and help it live online in a digital backpack or a digital portfolio, and kids can actually use that to share out with, their teachers, their parents, possibly even future employers, what skills and knowledge and learning that they're acquiring. And this year, the Cities of Learning movement has expanded from Chicago in 2013 to now to Columbus, Dallas, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, and Washington, D.C. as well. And we're looking for more cities to join in 2015. And today we're chatting with some folks involved in Dallas's City of Learning. But before we dive into the chat with them, a couple more quick details. For those of you who are watching live, we really welcome your comments either via the COL 2014 hashtag on Twitter or the Google Plus event page that we have for this. And we'll look for your questions that we can actually address here in the Hangout. And we're also chatting throughout the month in the Connected Learning Google Plus community and using that same COL 2014 hashtag. And so I'd like to give everyone here in the Hangout a brief opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm going to go from my left to right. Margaret, do you want to start us off?
Certainly. Thanks, John. I'm Margaret Birmingham, Director of Business Operations here at Big Thought, and I'm part of the team. These folks here and several more on Big Thought staff that are living and breathing digital badges in our launch for Cities of Learning this summer.
And my name is Ed Meyer, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Big Thought, and I've been here for coming up on a couple of years now. And I first came across Big Thought about 5 years ago when I was working as a management consultant doing pro bono work with several nonprofits here in the city of Dallas, and really impressed by the work here to level the playing field and create opportunities, learning opportunities for kids throughout the city. So very excited to be here at Big Thought and be a part of this City of Learning initiative as it launches nationwide.
My name is Evan Cleveland. I am an instructional specialist here at Big Thought, and I'm on the program department, so it's a lot of program design, evaluation, assessment. And with this, I've been doing a lot of partner wrangling, bringing people into the initiative and helping to train them and prepare them for the work we're going to be doing this summer and beyond just living and breathing. There's a lot of dreaming about City of Learning, and that's my role.
And I'm Erin Offord, Director of Community Relations here at Big Thought, and really excited about the City of Learning. We've been able to have some really good conversations. Most of my work is around partner relations, family programming, but City of Learning has really shifted a little bit of the conversations we're able to have around digital badging and program design. And that's pretty much what we'll be doing for a few months now.
That's great. Thank you all again for joining us today and taking the time to give us kind of an inside the early look at what Dallas is doing this summer. Ed, specifically, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Big Thought organization and how you guys came to be involved in the City of Learning?
Sure. Yeah, Big Thought is a education-focused nonprofit. We've been in Dallas for over 25 years, and really the history of this organization is one where we do a lot of work with partnerships, both public-private partnerships, to create high-quality learning opportunities, creative learning opportunities for kids throughout the city of Dallas. And this partnership has taken different forms over the past 25 years. In its current sort of form, we work with really over 100 different partner organizations throughout the city of Dallas. Those are nonprofits, city agencies, and independent teaching instructors and teaching artists to deliver programs and coordinate programs mainly in out-of-school time, but also in school time. And so we do a lot of work in after-school through campus-based programs and in summer learning in partnership with our school district and with our community partners. And so we're really, as an organization, uniquely positioned to help lead this effort in the city of Dallas through our partnership with the Mayor's office and through our partnership with all the different program and partner providers throughout the city of Dallas. It's really kind of right in our sweet spot to do this connected learning work because it's something we've been doing for the past 25 years.
That's great. And, you know, speaking as a Connected Learning Alliance member, I always love when I hear those stories of practitioners getting that kind of aha moment of, oh, okay, I'm already doing that. That's something I personally identify with. And, you know, going off of, you're talking about all these different partnerships that you've been able to acquire. I understand that you guys had a pretty busy and exciting week this past week.
We did, yeah. We did our big public launch on Wednesday, and it was down at City Hall, and we had the mayor there, and our CEO, Gigi Antoni, and MacArthur Foundation, Jim Humke came down from Chicago, and we had some of our middle school students that we work with in one of our programs, all there to launch the initiative. It was a packed room, tons of partners were there, a lot of press, our city council, our school board trustees. It was really an exciting launch for this initiative, and we've been preparing for it for the past few months. It feels like a mad rush, and we put the website out there, and we're really trying to get it populated with programs, at least for our initial launch. And over the next couple of weeks, we're preparing for June 9th, which is our first day of official summer. But it's been a fast and furious week for us, but it's been or Fast and Furious couple of months, but it's been great. We had a very successful launch this Wednesday.
That's awesome. Congrats again. And, you know, speaking of, you know, leading into the summer, can you give us kind of, you know, a sneak peek or an overview? What are some of the plans that you guys have going on?
Well, this is Dallas, so after all, we're always wanting to do things big. And we already have 50 partners on board and hundreds of workshops listed, and that number grows every day. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that really the focus for this summer is to be in pilot mode. And I'm sure my colleagues will touch on some of the goals for the summer as we talk today, but we've narrowed it down to the discovery as the platform on the website. Workforce preparedness is a focus. The summer learning loss prevention, which is something Big Thought's already in the game for. And then lastly, leveling the playing field. So, you know, we've worked really close with the City of Chicago and Digital Youth Network with DePaul. They've been excellent colleagues, and all along they've been really advising us to start small this summer, test, try out different strategies, and build on their learnings and also our own this summer. So with that in mind, this summer is really all about testing those engagement strategies, experimenting with everything from how we work with partners, what ways and what types of badges will be issued, and how we're going to measure the success of the initiative. So we're looking forward to testing that out.
And Evan or Erin, did you have anything you wanted to add in there?
Just, it's, you know, Ed mentioned it's been a hectic few months, and it has, but it's been really exciting to try to get out to all the people we might work with, who we have worked with, and sort of present these ideas and see what sort of interest they have. And for the most part, everyone gets really excited. They catch on very fast, and as we've started trainings, not just getting the concept behind connected learning and how they can really articulate their learning goals, but seeing how excited they get about the potential for not just this summer, but what might happen in the coming summers as well.
And I think access is one of the words that we've been making sure, we try to make sure we limit the barriers for partners and individuals. So that's been very interesting conversations that partners thinking about how to get involved, their capacity. One of the particular groups that we've really been having some success with thinking out the box is our City of Dallas partners. And we have about 8 departments, including the police, the fire department. There's a Trinity River, it's a management group that's thinking around access around the bridge project that it's happening, but has really come to the table with innovative ideas of how digital learning can complement city departments. And you wouldn't think of that connection, but that's something we've been really excited to see how it shapes out this summer. There's a rapping fire crew that we have that we've learned about in our conversation, so we're very excited to get them connected through our events that we're planning.
And we've been pretty targeted in how we reached out to these groups. So we, like Ed mentioned, we have a long history of working with a lot of the local organizations here, everything from the large museums to the smaller neighborhood organizations. So we've reached out to those people that we have good relationships with and brought them in, but we've also paid very close attention to other issues as well of geography. Dallas is very spread out, and so we've tried to make sure we're hitting as many of those neighborhoods as we can, especially neighborhoods where there may not be as much access to the high quality summer programming, or where the high quality stuff is happening, but it's much more localized to that neighborhood. So we've tried to target a lot of those places, and in a sense that's helping, I think, build some capacity, because we're able to add something to the program they're already doing that will essentially help them do it even better. We're also looking at diversity of programs, the sort of different types of things that people are offering, so we're not just hitting, we have a long history in the arts. We don't want to just hit arts organizations. We've got cool robotics things happening, science initiatives, workforce development is really exciting, some internships, and then just as we build this out and work with the key people who work directly with kids, we're also trying to build those relationships with corporations and with universities, so that we aren't just seeing the ground game, but looking at how to build that forward to where these kids who are doing it now this summer, where they'll have a chance to see other opportunities in the next 5 summers.
That's awesome. And I think one of the keys of these Cities of Learning's programs is that they really do look forward, and that they do look past the summer. I know it's kind of easy to think that most of these institutions have a lot of free time in the summer. That's when you can hit them hard. But figuring out how to continue those relationships beyond the summer is always important. And Erin, I know you had touched on specifically you have a lot of different things going on. You're really excited. What are you looking forward to most this summer? Both from your own point of view as a Big Thought member, but also for the city as a whole.
Sure. One of the cool things that's happened, I think we might be doing a little differently, is the turn-up events. We're hosting 6 of them this summer. And the idea behind that was to make sure that we were also including maybe the disengaged youth. We understand that not all children are signed up for a summer camp. We have a lot of siblings that have to watch younger kids, but still want to make sure that they're connected. So we designed, in the process of designing, around 6 of these neighborhood level, really community access events that will be happening in various parts of our city. Evan talked about kind of the geography of Dallas, and in looking at the Dallas map, we wanted to really talk about our city and look at our city and make sure that we had different events for a walk-up student and family to come to participate. The idea is that we are partnering with a lot of the agencies that we have throughout the years, and the city of Dallas has really stepped up for these turn-up events and are creating engaging educational stations, but really keeping it free-flowing, understanding the nature of a community-wide event, but making it deep enough so that we can actually have a real meaningful experience for adults and kids who may participate in these events. We have a big idea of a bus that literally can sign up children on the spot, which is a good goal for us too, to really have kids signing up in the digital badge experience and using it as a marketing opportunity, but also having these really deep, free, social engaging opportunities. And so those have been really exciting. I think we're all geared up. We'll have our first one in June, and we'll go throughout the summer months and wrapping it up in August. But the idea was really to make sure that we tapped into the youth who may not have a partner or an agency connection, but still had a way of connecting with the social learning opportunities.
And along with that too, just while the initiative really deals a lot with the connected learning, the fact that we can find little ways to chip away at the access pieces and trying to think about how to get those kids who, I mean, we've had to acknowledge and be upfront with everyone that this is not going to be something every kid in the city is going to have access to, a digital platform. So we're working really hard to figure that out, and that's been really exciting. And it's been interesting too to see our partners start to innovate and think about how could I make some more computers available? How can I get kids in front of those screens to get them into the system and get them connected to it? Something else that's been exciting is in some of our trainings, people asking, well, so could I do this with this program? And the answer is almost always yes, and it's something new and something that never occurred to me to think about, and everyone's doing these fabulous things. And then also having Big Thought's always been a convener for so many partners, and having everyone come here and attend meetings. But with this initiative, it's been different in that they start talking more together and seeing how they can use their resources to reach the kids that other organizations are also working with, and they can all collaborate and create new pathways across the organization. So like our drama theater groups are doing some fabulous stuff that's going to work together, and the same with some of the nature organizations, so that they're building collaborations that didn't otherwise exist.
Very cool. And it sounds kind of like it's a living example of that old adage of, you know, all of us is smarter than none of or one of us, and getting all the city involved. It's really cool to hear how that's going to be happening. And the tournament events in particular sound like they're going to be really interesting ways to promote, you know, equity, which again is a big layer for the connected learning vision. So that's awesome to hear. Specifically for turn-up events, but also the program as a whole, is Dallas City of Learning geared toward a very specific age group? I know Los Angeles is a little bit more broad, you know, ages 3 to 24. Is it the same for Dallas, or a little bit different?
We're pretty broad, but maybe a little less broad. We're targeting ages 5 to 18 is the range we're looking at. So, you know, any school age student, and so what, you know, it's a real challenge. Frankly, it's trying to target the messaging, target the website, everything toward everyone from a kindergartner to a senior in high school, and you almost kind of aim for that sweet spot in the middle and hope you can capture students on both sides. And but really the primary goal is to just reach more kids, provide more high quality learning experiences for them, and really try to narrow this opportunity gap. And you know, the stat we've been talking a lot about in Dallas, and our mayor uses a lot, is the 6,000 hour gap. You know, by the sixth grade, students that have that have less resources have lost out on 6,000 hours of learning compared to their higher income peers. And so what we're really trying to do through this initiative, and what we're emphasizing in Dallas, is how do we close that opportunity gap, provide more opportunities, provide opportunities for students to go deeper and develop their own learning pathways. And we really are, you know, it's something we started saying early on, and we understood it, and we've understood it for a long time. But now that the website's rolling out, now that we're having conversations with partners, now that we're actually, you know, really engaging students about it, the concept, it's actually kind of really happening. Students are thinking about building pathways, and it's more than just sort of the connected learning jargon. You're actually seeing it happen, and that's very exciting and encouraging.
And speaking of pathways, I know one of the ways that Cities of Learning is doing that specifically is with the use of digital badges. So can you give us kind of some insight on how Dallas's City of Learning is going to be using badges, and maybe some of the different types that you're actually issuing?
Yeah, that's been great with just the infrastructure that's been built already. The 4 badges that the Cities of Learning are dealing with, there's a community badge, which is basically the habits of work, habits of mind that are valued by a learning community. There is a knowledge badge, which just means the student has incorporated a meaningful body of knowledge, and there will be some assessment with that to see how well they have done it. And what's been great is talking to our partners about how creative they can be in their forms of assessment. There's a skill badge to see what the students have learned how to do, and to make, not just make them aware of it, but with the badge you can make the other adults in the room and the other adults in their lives aware of the skills, the competencies they've developed. There's a showcase badge, which is a chance for that kid to show those skills, that knowledge, that work off to a valued audience, whomever that might be. And these badges are different from what they used in Chicago last summer, and I think that this is a great evolution in how they're working with them and how we're all working with them. No single badge privileges another badge, and that's really nice. We just lost some light.
We're not moving around enough.
There we go. But it's been really great to see how it's a little bit more limber of a system, I think, and also just the fact that it meshes really well with different organizations' missions and philosophies when we are working with these people to see what sort of badges will fit their programs. It's great to see them say, you know, we really aren't an organization that teaches particular skills. We're really focused on exposure to something new, to new ways of thought, and in doing that, they can really focus in on how they do that. And these badges also just reflect sort of the spectrum of experiences that happen in learning, and each one is kind of a different lens on how you can look at that. And I think that's been a revelation to all of us as we try to work with the programs we know in and out, to see how the badges actually help us understand what we do better, but also how, if we can understand it better, then we can articulate it better, and our kids will be more aware of the learning that they're doing with the program, and how the badges can highlight that for them.
It's really been one of the more exciting things for me to observe and participate in, is seeing partners think through badge creation and think through learning objectives and how you would assess those. And to me, it really suggests that for all of us, including our Big Thought programs, our partner programs that we work with, how we can sort of even just elevate the work that we do and improve, all of us improve quality as we think more strategically about the learning objectives we're trying to achieve with the kids, the students that we're working with.
Definitely, and that's a theme that I know we touched on yesterday with the Dallas folks too. One of the people from Steel Town Entertainment said that exact same thing. You know, by having to think about designing badges and how you would issue them, it actually makes you think about the skills and qualities that you personally value, you know, as an employer. So it's great to see that happening. And Evan, I'm going to kind of call back to something that you'd mentioned in terms of you guys are doing some following up on what Chicago had done in 2013, and you're obviously kind of drawing some best practices from there. So if you don't mind us all riffing for a little bit here, what are some of the other best practices or tips or hints that you picked up from watching what Chicago did last summer?
Yeah, well, I mean, one would be to start a lot earlier, so the last few months aren't so hectic. But beyond that, just the training that Chicago does is really well thought out, and we've had to condense that training and make it fit our timeline and just the local situation. And like we said, having a relationship with a lot of these organizations makes it easier to do that. But the training following their paradigm is so helpful, because they did a great job of distilling everything down to its essential concepts and what are the learning goals for your particular program, what are the outcomes that are going to show those goals, and how are you going to implement what strategy you're going to implement to get to those goals. And once you start and go right back to what's at the heart of your program, and then you can build from there, and it makes so much more sense to how the badges can speak to that. And what's nice too is seeing organizations figure out that just because this is a community badge and it lives in this category, there's a lot of ways to mess around with it and twist it around and make it fit what you're doing. So just seeing that training be so effective and be able to deploy it here has been amazing.
I think another one of the best practices that we've taken heart from Chicago is around the communications. You know, when you're starting really starting the get-go of this whole industry, you have to have the right messaging and some powerful images and powerful visuals to really have that groundswell to take wind in Dallas. So we've spent a lot of time really targeting audiences, figuring out the messaging, because you only really get one shot to make a splash. Even though it's a pilot, we the best practices around communications have been really important for us.
And I will say, having them come down, not having met them before, I first met them in their visit, the Chicago team, really emphasizing the student-centered approach of the program is very helpful for how we communicate to partners. And because we talk to partners in many different ways, reminding that this is about the student center, this is about the student pathway, it really helped kind of slant a little bit of how we talk to partners and think about things differently. And I think they convey that message very strongly for us in their visit.
And Ed, I know each of the cities involved in this year's City of Learning program have been a little bit different, but can you talk specifically about the funding model behind Dallas's City of Learning?
Sure, yeah, well we really, Dallas is blessed with a lot of individual philanthropists here that are so generous with their funding and their time, really. And we started conversations on this several months ago, or maybe even 10 months ago, with a few individuals in Dallas who have just been so generous with their funding, and really as thought partners to sit down and talk about what should this look like for Dallas, what should our objectives be, what's the challenge we're trying to really address in Dallas. And so funding-wise, it really started with some of those individuals. And then we also have several corporations that are headquartered here in Dallas that are stepping up in funding, and a handful of foundations who are contributing to resources to the effort. So it really is a combination of individuals, very large donations, but also smaller donations, corporations and foundations, and it's been a great mix. And I can't leave out the city investment. I mean, the city is not, there's not a separate line item now for City of Learning in the city budget, but the city agencies are pouring so much of their time and capacity into this effort that it is a contribution. It's resources that they are dedicating to this effort and stepping up in tremendous ways, and all the partner organizations. I mean, if you think about the wealth of resources we have, both in actual dollars in the door, but also just in terms of time and capacity from all of Big Thought and the partner organizations that we work with on a daily basis, it's really tremendous.
That's great to hear. And speaking of all these different partner organizations and kind of the physical spaces where learning is going to be happening this summer, are all of them kind of launching on the same day and having the same timeline throughout the summer? Is it going to be, learn as you go, adjust your curriculum as you go, or do you get the sense that each of them kind of has a set pattern that they're going to go through with kids this summer?
It goes through a set pattern. We've said to people, we don't want you to create anything new. You are doing really good work, and we want to see how this initiative and the badges can map onto that. And I mean, in doing that, I know people have made discoveries and done slight adjustments, but no one's creating any programming this summer to speak to the badges. We want to just do what they're doing. Most of the partners are going to be launching their programs on June 9th. Some people are starting next week. There's other people who will be coming in a little bit later. Some groups are targeting just one experience to really understand how they can make it work for their organization. So that might happen in the middle of July. So it just depends on the timeline of what the group is doing, and we're not asking anyone to adjust that timeline at all.
I'm sure that's welcome news for everyone involved too. So aside from the obvious kind of physical learning spaces, are kids going to have any kind of online component to match the offline learning that they're doing?
Well, we're gonna certainly piggyback or take advantage of the great work that DePaul University is doing in curating these set of online challenges, and we're excited about those. We're looking for. I know we're kind of getting previews of what those are going to look like, and we think that the students in Dallas are really going to get on board with those and do those online challenges. So that's pretty much, I think, the primary online learning component is what's getting developed for the nationwide movement. We're excited about it.
And it frames that access piece a little bit too when we talk about how we're breaking down barriers. The online components, especially when they're available in all of our partner neighborhood library branches, really just speaks to the potential that really anyone can get involved.
But even organizations are looking at, for instance, some of the nature-based organizations are talking about ways they can create badges that are sort of approved by all of them, but don't require you to go to, for instance, the zoo or the arboretum or a nature center. You can go to your park and explore nature there, and maybe take a picture and submit it through email or through a link on the website, and you can earn a badge that way by sharing in those same habits of mind you would encounter at the site, but you can do it in your own neighborhood, on your own time, in your own way.
From our understanding of Chicago's online challenges, a lot of them are truly online games and missions, but a large portion of them are here's the challenge, now go outside and engage in a certain way and get away from the computer, and you have to submit evidence of actually doing things not online in order to receive that badge. So it's pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome. And I know in terms of what you guys have been talking about so far, it's pretty obvious to see what the benefits are going to be for kids this summer. And you talked about as well those 4 different themes. But how about adults that are going to be involved in the Cities of Learning, whether it's parents of students or adult mentors at these physical spaces, or even teachers during the fall? How do all these different groups also benefit from Dallas City of Learning?
So one thing we know in Dallas is that the demand for really high quality programming is extremely high, such that a lot of our high profile camps have been sold out since February. There's just a lot of demand in the city for that. And so when I think about how the parents will be affected, I think just this searchable catalog alone, which is this discovery portion on the website, is going to be a huge asset to our community, because parents will now have one place to go to find quality programming for their kids, and there'll be enough things on there that will have that critical mass that hopefully that will be the go-to for parents, especially along with children. And that's one thing we're emphasizing with our partners is it's okay if you're not badging everything that you're offering, but as long as you get it out there, allow people to discover and build a pathway through your organization. So.
And teachers is a great example too. That I can think about in the fall when kids are going back to school, and teachers are easily aware of certain kids on either end of the spectrum, because they're kids who will demand or require an amount of attention from that teacher. But there's a whole probably 16 to 18 kids in a class that don't require that attention or don't get that attention for whatever reason, not because of the teacher's fault, but if the teacher could look at just the kid's backpack and see what this kid is interested in, what that child has done, then the teacher's going to know so much more, and we'll find a new way to connect to that child, and a new way to sort of leverage that knowledge to reach those children even better. So that's a really great potential to have summer speak to the school year as well. And just that heavy lift, that figuring out how to go to your program's essence and then build badges to it, that really forces everyone to articulate what it is they're trying to accomplish with their students and with their camps and their learning goals. And that helps just that pipeline of teachers and teaching artists that are working in these organizations to understand how they can adjust their goals, how they can adjust their teaching practices. Every organization that's been here has been able to talk about some minor discovery that they've made in doing this about the way they work, a discovery about how if they just ask a question a little differently, it might have a better gain for the students' awareness of what they're learning. So just seeing how mentors and teachers, instructors, and education departments can be affected by having to go back and think about it again and design something that will fit with this has been exciting.
One thing that I'm really looking forward to after the summer is talking to the mentors of some of the older kids that we badge and think differently about how we badge this high school or really someone at a middle school level, because I think having a different conversation around the badge choice, the interest of the children searching, will really flip the script on how mentors are talking to kids about career pathways. There's traditional ways that I think people think about a career and a choice, and I think the badges will really change how we talk about what the career interest could be, different than the traditional way that we've kind of directed kids to go in a certain direction. I think the multitude of all these different experiences, the diversity of the experiences, could really, switch how mentors are talking to kids about the type of experiences you need to get to a point. It'll be a little different, I think, through the digital badging experiences.
Another group of adults that we're hoping to really engage this summer are the volunteers, and the stream that we're doing that with are through the turn-ups. And you know, we talked about the turn-ups, but each one is really going to have a different focus, whether it's arts-based, or we have one at Dallas Love Field that's going to be aviation and engineering focused. And so with these different focuses for the turn-ups, we're able to really also direct volunteers in a real skill-based way, so that their volunteerism means something to them because it's part of what they do, whether it's a corporate volunteer or just any of our other volunteers that are already engaged with Big Thought. So
that sounds like a great approach. And kind of going back to what Evan and Erin were both talking about in terms of the badges, what kind of methods or processes do you guys have in place for educating, say, parents and teachers about the value behind badges, since I'm guessing this might be the first time a lot of them are hearing about digital badges?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. We're actually partnering with a charter school here in Dallas to badge their a set of students that we're working with this summer, and we're doing a summer camp, summer school program with them for the first month of summer in June. And then what we're doing as part of that program, we're planning on doing is bringing in the parents of those students one night and really walking them through the process, walking them through the website, teaching them what this is all about, and exposing them to one of the turn-ups as well, and kind of bringing them in, and the parents with the children to kind of show what the different learning opportunities look like. So having a combination of those, the technical training along with a real-life example of learning outside the classroom and what that looks like. And what we're then going to do is to see how effective is that engagement moving forward in July and August when they're not in any kind of summer school and they're free to do whatever they want to do, and to see if that has created a spark in both the students and the parents to actually further their learning and engage them more. So we're looking forward to that as a real test case with these students that we're working with in the charter school.
Just helping our partners too think about how they can talk to parents and helping them even craft the language they'll use to work with their parents. And a lot of it is just, there's as much as we've learned in the past few months, we've got to think about teaching both our kids and their parents how to use this system, and it doesn't just come with automatic immediate currency, and we have to build that into it. So there's going to be a lot of conversations about it, but it seems like everyone gets it fairly quickly and sometimes leapfrogs over this summer into, oh, well, we could do this, this, and this. So I think the conversations will be fruitful.
And both Ed and Evan, you kind of touched on this idea that badges help youth kind of explore interest-based learning. I think, Ed, you said it as, you know, doing what you want to do or learning what you want to learn. And I was just wondering if you had additional thoughts on how badging in particular can help kind of bridge those two silos of in-school and out-of-school learning, especially beyond the summer.
Yeah, you know, there's a real movement around personalized learning now across the country, as well as connected learning, and our Dallas Independent School District is doing some piloting with that as well, and doing some really creative, innovative work around personalized pathways in school for students. And I think that badging and this connected learning outside classroom work, it's really ties in so naturally and neatly with that, because one of the things that I think the work that we do at Big Thought, you know, we know we have impact with kids and out of school time work. You just do a site visit and you see the light bulb go off in kids' heads. I mean, our mission is to make imagination part of everyday learning. And we know we have impact, but sometimes we're reduced to proving that impact through standardized test scores and grades and you know, attendance in school, which is all very important, and we know out of school time enrichment impacts those things. But we also know that there are certain other skills, other socio-emotional learning skills that we look to measure. And badging is such a great way to make that linkage, to show, to demonstrate, acknowledge the skills, the knowledge, the habits of mind that are getting created outside the classroom. And if we can just use badges as a way to recognize that and then tie it back with the learning that the schools are trying to achieve, and use those badges as sort of the evidence and the acknowledgement of that learning, we think it can tie together pretty neatly, and we don't always have to just go back to standardized test scores, which are an important part of our education fabric, but it's not the only thing.
I was talking with some of our partners about the creativity they can have in assessing what kids have learned and what they can do through their programs, and sort of raising it as this different version of acknowledging achievement for kids that sort of is different and highlights those passions, different from the standardized test, and how a standardized test has all the answers right there, and just the real world situations we expect our kids to encounter. That's not the case, and that the assessment pieces for this could be much more creative and innovative, and it could be about the answer that isn't right there. And I think that's exciting, because not just can kids be recognized and rewarded for what they do on their own time, what they do when they don't have to be in school, but we can start to say that these experiences matter because of what the kid has achieved, and they can start to see that they can maybe deal with those ambiguities and with the fact that there isn't always going to be an answer when they come into these experiences, and this initiative can help push us in that direction in some exciting ways.
That's awesome, and this is a question that we actually haven't asked the other people that we've had on this month, but wondering if you have any thoughts on how you're going to stay connected to these other cities that are participating in the larger City of Learning movement. Is there time already built in for learning from one another, or is it going to be kind of a keep tabs on each other and in a little bit more of an informal way?
Well, I think we can credit the Badge Alliance, having formed earlier this year, to really being that glue for us. They've already put us in touch with, we have weekly calls with the other cities, because there's so much learning to be had. It makes no sense for us to be doing all of this in silos. And so there's already this informal learning community among all of the groups that are launching at all of the cities of learning. And so I think that's really going to be invaluable, not just now while we're all struggling and stressing to get this going, but in the future as more cities come on and we can really leverage each other's work.
I think we've got to hold our mayor back too. He's ready to challenge all the other cities,
yeah.
And more badges, deeper learning, and it's like a Super Bowl challenge or something. We're going to bet a ton of brisket or something against Chicago and LA and all the other cities. So.
Well, that is the everything is bigger in Texas motif coming up again. I think LA and Chicago's mayors actually have a bet going on that's Stanley Cup related, so there's some friendly rivalry between the cities as well.
That's right.
And also wondering, since you guys are, officially launched, but also heading into the major launch of actual on-the-ground programs, what are some of the strategies that you're employing for getting the word out about the campaign, getting people involved with the campaign?
It's a great question. It's something we're still deciding now. I mean, what we've done so far is we had our big media launch this week, and we've got some stories out there. We're also putting posters in every single one of our schools across the Dallas Independent School District, and getting in newsletters as well, and emails, and maybe even some robocalls to do some direct engagement with families about what this initiative is all about. And then we're looking at doing some hopefully some of our great media partners in Dallas will give us some free public service announcement spots. And then we also just kind of working through some other earned media opportunities, doing some interviews on our public radio stations, and just doing other interviews with some of our major media outlets here in Dallas. So that's what our focus has been on now. We have some resources we've been able to raise for PR and outreach media, but next summer we imagine it will be even much larger, and we're going to work a much larger part of the budget toward these efforts, because it's frankly it's a little bit of the it's a little bit of the challenge between launching in pilot mode and still trying to get the word out for everybody to jump in, because we want as many students as possible to join the initiative this summer. But we also know that we're still in pilot mode, trying to work out all the kinks, and next summer we'll be ready to really explode and have every partner in Dallas that can participate, and hopefully have every kid in Dallas participate. And so, so that's our goal.
And I mean, beyond the earned and paid media, we look at our partner network as just channels that are already there. So if we can equip them with the tools and communication for their separate networks, I think it'll be a real win. One of the interesting strategies that Chicago shared with us that we're looking to do is when they were convening some of their maker fairs and showcases and wanting to involve folks that aren't already in programs, they started to go to the local community level convenience store and strip malls and put up posters there. And so we're hoping to do that for our turn-up events in a real grassroots way, because we know that not everyone's already connected to our channels. So hopefully that'll pay off for us.
And Ed, you kind of talked about this tension of being in pilot mode this year and really looking forward to ramping up next year. And so speaking specifically from the Big Thought point of view, what are you guys hoping to learn through this entire summer campaign?
Yeah, we'd love to learn, frankly, I'd love to learn how effective is this as an engagement platform for kids. I mean, how excited are they about getting badges and about, you know, potentially even sharing badges, and how much of that is the driver versus just thinking of this system and this website as a great way to find opportunities. And I'm interested in seeing the you know, to see how effective both of those are, both of those things, and just seeing that this initiative as an engagement platform, how impactful is it for kids? And then also this access question. I mean, we need to really identify where the access gaps are. We already know that in a lot of the work that we currently do. But as we go out and raise funds for next summer, we want to pour a lot of those funds into our community partners to deliver more programs to kids that don't have access to some of the quality programs throughout Dallas. And so that's really, I think, one of the big lessons that we want to learn this summer is how do we fill that access gap next summer when we have hopefully a lot more funding to put into community programs, direct funding into the programs, and also, you know, questions around transportation and online access. How do we fill those gaps in new and creative ways? One of the things that our mayor said a few months ago, and we were really starting to think seriously about this and ramp it up, and we were talking about this question of access barriers and on the online specifically, and you know, I was almost approaching it almost in an apologetic way, like, yeah, we know that there's this online thing and there's the gap and the barriers, and we've got to think about that, and he said, yeah, we do, but you know what, every kid in Dallas has to have access. They've got to learn how to use this technology, and so we got to put it out there and then figure out how to eliminate that gap. And we shouldn't you know, try to create a system that doesn't utilize technology. We need to create a system that does utilize technology, and then make sure our kids and parents have access to that technology. And it was a really good point. I mean, in order to be successful, we've got to bridge that gap.
And that's an excellent mindset to have, and I know that especially aligns with the connected learning vision of being openly networked and, you know, taking advantage of all these cool, awesome tools that we have in this digital age. And so specifically for Evan and Erin, I know you've kind of gone through the bulk of the setup process here, kind of on the eve of big launch and getting the summer underway. What would you say are some best practices or tips or advice you might have for other organizations who might be looking to implement City of Learning next year or in a couple years?
One thing is while the digital badges are a huge, a fundamental component, is to focus first on the philosophies behind connected learning, and to look at how you work with kids and how you interact with them and what you really want to accomplish. Start there and explain then to whomever you need to that this is ways we can impact them better by highlighting their social interests, highlighting their unique personal interests, and connecting that back to their academics, and really live there for a while so that when it's time to introduce digital badging, it's a tool that serves connected learning, and it's very easy to start talking about the badges and go into this technology spin where now that's all you're talking about, and you're kind of, it's easy to miss the point, I think. So that's been one lesson we've learned, that if you set up the conversations correctly, the badges are something people are just like, oh, I guess I get that, and it's okay, and we can move into how to utilize them better.
Yeah, I think the conversations with the partners are key. I would say start with low-hanging fruit. You know, throw the ideas out to some stakeholders that you already work with, and start to sell that message out with a small group, because you get some really helpful feedback when you're thinking before you roll out in a bigger way. And I think that's kind of been helpful. And meet people halfway. Meet them where they are. Do not reinvent the wheel. It's not about throwing away what you plan to do and now doing this. It's often about what are you doing, and then the onus has been on Evan, really, who's done, I think, a great job on this is how it can work. And I think that's refreshing to folks who are trying to just wrap their mind around their own organizations and how to connect with this. And we've had a long-standing relationship with many partners, which I think we've been blessed to do, and I think that's a value that for any agency is very key. It's all about your partners and being strategic around the key ones that you probably tap first.
That's awesome advice. Thank you guys for sharing that. And hard to believe, but we're already almost at the top of our hour here. Minutes have flown by per usual in these webinars, and I just wanted to kind of give everyone a chance to go around the room one by one and hopefully get some final thoughts. What would you like to tell everyone as a closing statement?
I guess I'll start. I guess in a closing statement, looking to the future and how we roll this out this summer, I'm going to be really excited to see how the metrics all play out. It's way too early in the game to know what it is exactly we want to measure the outputs and the outcomes of and be able to share, but we're, Big Thought's uniquely positioned to be this sort of state of the union once a year for our community to be able to share what kind of gaps and opportunities and challenges exist out there based on the data that these badges will bring. So I'm excited to see how data can really inform our decisions.
And I'm excited to just kind of dream big. Like, we've been in such implementation mode about the nuts and bolts of every little program, getting it entered just right, and getting the bugs worked out and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm excited about just seeing possibilities for next summer and beyond, because that's the real beauty of this initiative, is that it can scale up so fast and so great that once you start dreaming big, the possibilities are endless. And I'm looking forward to that part of it, is getting out of the nitty-gritty of implementation mode and start being a dreamer again. So
yeah, kind of along those lines is, a lot of organizations have these highly engaged kids, these teen advisory councils, and there's the Meier's Intern Fellows Program, and another group of students that do a lot of work in addressing community issues, and trying to work with those kids to figure out what brought you here, what were the experiences you had that were fundamental in your deciding to engage at this level, so we can start to create pathways and make those explicit to kids who otherwise wouldn't know they exist. And then the same thing from sort of the top down, finding out what corporations and universities are really looking for, and how we can tailor this initiative to approach that and to speak to that, so that it opens up those pathways for kids to be more engaged as middle school and high school students, but then also to find paths into what they want to do that exists here in the city, so that we aren't experiencing any sort of brain drain ever and having kids go away.
I think along those lines, relevancy just keeps turning in my head, and really talking about what's relevant to children. And I think after the summer, we'll see what kids are interested in, and excited about how do we get that back to the programmers so they can design relevant programs for kids. I think we all mean well, but unless you're really talking to kids, it's really hard to know what's relevant. And I just think the kids are driving the City of Learning this summer, and for us to step back and learn what's relevant to them will be really exciting.
And I think that is a great note to end on in terms of, keeping things relevant for the people that we're trying to serve, youth, kids, students. So thanks again, everyone, for your time, your energy, your insights, and everything you're doing in setting up a really awesome sounding summer in Dallas. And this wraps up our final webinar of this month-long series, but that doesn't mean that our conversations just have to end here. Like we mentioned before, you can keep this energy going by using the Twitter hashtag COL2014. And I know Dallas specifically, you guys are using the hashtag CityWithoutLimits. And if you want to find out more about Dallas's City of Learning and all the awesome work that they're doing, you can check out their newly launched website, dallascityoflearning.org. And I think that pretty much wraps us up for the month, so everyone definitely keep your eyes out for all these awesome things that are happening this summer, and we'll keep you informed via the Connected Learning Alliance and clalliance.org as well. So thanks everyone at Big Thought.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Got some.